Raze Chaos. You've made it back to my channel, and it is time. It is time to get back. Raze started a series quite a long time ago that he never finished. Partially because he doesn't have all the pieces to it, but technically he's only missing one piece. Or one set, I guess you should say. He still had 2 more to go in that, and yes, this will go into that playlist because why wouldn't it? But yes, anybody that's been waiting on this has been waiting for a while, but for basically majority of my subscribers have, unless they've gone backwards and looked in the backlog, have never seen these things. So we're going to go ahead and continue that. Like I said, I've got 2 of these sets that I haven't shown off yet. We're showing off one today, and yes, we're going to build up for the second one further on. I figured C2E2 coming up. I had a lot of videos to make to cover that gap, because you don't get a gap, even though I'm going to be doing other things. So I had to go ahead and get that set up, so I figured that's probably as good a time as any to go ahead and get through this. Get through going these. So this is the Justice League of America and Adversaries, and this came out in 1985. It was for the DC Heroes role-playing game. And basically, just like Dungeons & Dragons has miniatures, these were miniatures for the DC Heroes role-playing game. And I've shown off the Outsiders. I've shown off the Legion of the Superheroes. That is pretty, I mean, this is going to be in a playlist, so easy access if you want to check those out. And there was one made specially for Tim Burton's Batman movie. Which was that those figures were a lot larger, and there were only 2 of them. So those are the 3 that I've shown off so far. Now we're going to get into the Justice League, and just like with the other 2 sets that I've shown off, it's really kind of curious as to why they've chosen the characters that they've chosen to put in here. As opposed to the Outsiders set, which had Black Lightning on the front, even though there was not a Black Lightning figurine in it. Everybody on the cover here is a figure in the set. The Joker, who obviously he did have a major storyline going in, or a major plot point in the original Justice League comic. Brainiac, however, did not. So, but this is right around the time of the Superpowers line of toys, and they had redesigned Brainiac specifically for that, and for the Crisis on Infinite Earths. So this was, they basically wanted to pimp him out as much as they possibly could, because he wasn't just a green alien in this case, he was a full-on robot form. And of course you've got the mainstays, the world's finest, Superman and Batman right there on the front, and Green Arrow bringing in there, and there is a significance to Green Arrow in the Justice League, but since he's a figure in here, I'll get to that when I get to him. So we're going to put this guy away, open this up, let you guys have a look at these guys. And yes, getting close-ups of these things was a must, because they are so tiny. You will see. And here we are. We have got the original set. The original Justice League of America and their Adversaries. They are tiny, as you can see. That is a Walmart bag lining the back of it, because I don't know if you can tell, but the little foam divider thing on here has seen better days, and the back part of it was just full on eaten away or corroded or just shriveled up and useless. I had to wash some of these things to get the actual fuzz out of them. But we're going to go ahead and we are going to get the big characters right out of the way. Starting with, of course, the de facto leader, the one that they follow no matter who's technically the chairman, but that would be Superman, the flagship character of the DC universe, one of the founding members. you notice that in the first appearance of the Justice League with Starro that I just showed off on New Comic Book Day, Superman was not on that cover. However, Superman was in the story. Because, of course, he was. But I think the idea behind the Justice League was to get all their other characters that wasn't Superman or Batman or Wonder Woman to basically get shown on the cover, so people would be like, "Oh, there are lots of characters in here, and I want to get as many heroes as I can." But yeah, Superman, he was kind of the de facto leader of the Justice League from the very beginning. I love the detail on this thing. It's got the S shield on the back, the S shield on the front. Some of the detail in these are a little bit, they get a little difficult because they are so tiny. But yeah, the Superman they did a great job with. Really kind of hard. It's basically getting down to the faces, which are the hardest parts of these to make. So yeah, that is one of our founding members. And next up, of course, we've got to go right to him. We have got the Batman. And of course, Batman has always been a super popular character, even at the time. So yes, he gets a super Batman pose on this. Even though there's a little bit of extra metal on the bottom that keeps him wobbling constantly, which is not cool. But at the same time, yeah, I mean, these are stamped with a date on them. There are things I could do to make this thing more stable, but I don't really want to, you know. I mean, crap, this is going to be an antique not before too long. But yeah, you can see the symbol on the front. You can see you can't really see the differentiate between his trunks and his tights. But yeah, Batman, right there. And even then you can't really see a differentiate between his mask and his face. Yeah, they had to give him a more dynamic pose because he's Batman. Of course he's Batman. And, yeah, that's him right there. That's the big guy. And again, wasn't on the cover, but he was a member of the Justice League. And that had to happen. Who else was a founding member that we can show off? We can show off the Martian Manhunter, who was a mainstay of the Justice League. Again, he was one of the first members. He was one of the founding members. Even when after the Crisis, when they did an alternate version of the origin of the Justice League, which wasn't too different, except for the fact that Superman and Batman and Wonder Woman were not part of it. At that point, that was really more about the other characters that would be considered secondary characters, but really, if you divide up all the original 7 members of the Justice League, and they all have like a big supporting cast, and essentially every character goes back to one of those camps. So, Martian Manhunter, who had been a mainstay of the Justice League for the longest time, the longest serving member, he was in every incarnation, all the way up until the New 52, which is part of the reason why that one just did not work. I'm sorry, but that was a huge difference. Not putting Martian Manhunter in there. I mean, unlike Superman, Martian Manhunter was brought to Earth as an adult. And being from a planet where telepathy was prevalent, you know, he's used to a community. He's used to family. He's used to being surrounded by people. And in this case, he's surrounded by aliens. So to have that secondary family of the Justice League, you could tell that was important to him. That's why he was always part of it. And he was very, very nurturing and caring and, you know, fatherly to newer members, especially in later incarnations. And to rob the character of that was really a sad thing. When it came to the Justice League, Martian Manhunter really was the father of them. even though half of them didn't need dads. Martian Manhunter kind of acted as though that, and he was the anchor to varying degrees. And I think that's a very important thing. And when you use the Justice League without Martian Manhunter, that is what ends up lacking, and it shows. Who else, as far as the founding members, did they put in here? Because that's 3 of them right there, and there were 4 founding members in this. And the last one, of course, is Hal Jordan, the Green Lantern. And they gave him a dynamic pose as well. And looks great. He's standing on a rock. He got a rock to stand on because he's just that dynamic. And yeah, you can see this is where the detail starts to go. The symbol's a little bit hard to see, but it's still there. The mask is still kind of showing up there. Yeah, they really went all out on this guy. They were going to show. And you can kind of see that they were molded together at one point because he's got shavings on him. And every time I try and do a close-up on these, some of the shavings come off. So you'll see those in the close-ups. And yeah. I cleaned my dang turntable, but yeah, the shavings just get everywhere. And no matter, I can clean it, put it on there, there's going to be shavings. I don't know where they all come from, but yeah, he is the last of the founding members that they put in there. The rest of the founding members were not in here, because obviously they couldn't just do that. Otherwise, this whole thing would have just been them. And this is the Justice League and the Adversaries, and they wanted to put multiple characters to represent multiple times in the Justice League, and that is how that goes. So, but yeah, even though Star of the Conqueror was the first adversary that appeared in comics, I think it was a couple issues later. Yeah, it wasn't until issue 9, I think, of the Justice League before they showed the Apalexians, which was a group of aliens that had come down in different areas in different forms to battle it out to see who was going to be the new leader of their planet. But they would essentially turn other people into their army. And since they landed in different parts of the world, different parts of the United States as well, they would tackle a different League member or a different superhero. And then towards the end of the story, after all these individuals were taken out, they all met up with Superman and Batman, who were handling the last of the Apalexians. And that's when they decided that they needed to be a group. In the updated post-crisis universe, that was pretty much the same, except when the Justice League got up there, just Superman was up there. Superman had just taken care of the last of the Apalexians and flew off without even seeing them. And that was kind of like, oh, well, there's the big guy. I think we did okay as a team. Let's be a team. So that kind of worked. Well, they did have a original female League member. That ended up being Black Canary, because obviously if you're going to eliminate Wonder Woman out of the original lineup, you got to replace her with somebody, and it's more appropriate if it's female. But yeah, so we're going to get over to the first actual person to have joined the Justice League, and that would be Green Arrow. They didn't take long to get a new guy, and that was Green Arrow. He was the first member. He joined in issue 4. Debuting his, I believe it was his diamond-tipped arrow, because when you're a guy with a bow and an arrow, and you're trying to join a team that has a guy with a magic ring, a freaking telepathic Martian, Superman of all people, the Flash, I mean, it's kind of hard to show up with your bow and arrow and say, hey, I can be a useful member of your team. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a strange choice for that. But that's the route that they went with. And Green Arrow became a very long-standing member. He really represented the everyman in a lot of cases, where he was the easiest character to relate to and follow, because he wasn't a god walking the earth or have this amazing, wonderful piece of magic weaponry, or, you know, yeah, just not being overpowered. But yeah, issue 4, they brought Green Arrow on the team. And it's funny because Green Arrow actually ended up being the person that would argue new members of the League more than any other League member. You would think that would be Batman, but Batman, of course, is of the mind that, yeah, he'll work them in somehow and make them an asset, unless they're just really bad. So, yeah, Green Arrow is another of the team members. And I think that leaves just one left as far as the heroes of the Justice League that they've represented here. And that bounces us up to issue 31, where Hawkman joins the group. And this is the Silver Age Hawkman. This is Qatar Hall. Later retconned to be a Thangarian spy, sent to infiltrate the Justice League for their upcoming invasion. And it's part of that long, complicated Hawkman history that's just so prevalent in the DC universe. You can't avoid it. He's everywhere. Hawkman touches everything, and everything touches Hawkman. I don't make it that way. That's just the way it ends up being. But yeah, you can see he's got like this nice big morning glory. The chain with the ball on it with the spikes. The bare-chested hawk wings. I believe in this case, Hawkman was actually able to communicate with birds. That's one of the things that sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. He and Hawkwoman was the one with the Justice League. I know basically Hawkgirl and Hawkwoman are the same character, but Hawkwoman was apparently a spy. That's kind of why when you got to Starcross, there was that betrayal there. That actually was in relation to that. So, yeah, when they tried to put in the Hawks in the Justice League, and they wanted to show the original Hawkman and then explain why Hawkgirl wasn't in any kind of relation to him, yeah, it got complicated. It's probably the most complicated thing in the Justice League animated series. But this is definitely a great figure to have going on. But that is the 6 members of the Justice League they included in this. And they included 4 villains. I've already kind of mentioned one of them, or 2 of them actually. And we're going to get to that right after I have that, whatever that was. We're going to get to that right now. And first up, we're going to go with a very, very, very clever plot where it happened in the Justice League of America issue number 77, where a man was dubbed the most normal man in America. His name was John Doe, and that's not D-O-E, which, you know, that's kind of the everyman, you know, no name you give to unidentified individuals. It was Doe as in the dough. But the joke was that it wasn't the D-O-E, but it was John Doe. And just kind of gave it away a little bit there. He was really the Joker. And even though he never, I mean, they reveal it is the Joker, but the whole issue, you don't actually see the Joker. You see John Doe, but you don't see the Joker. And he takes advantage of their little mascot of Snapper Carr, who helped with the Starro ordeal. And Yeah, that's basically the betrayal of Snapper Carr. I think because they realized they didn't really need the little teen sidekick with the Justice League, so they wanted to do away with him. And who's better to do away with sidekicks than the Joker? So yeah, that history went back a lot further than you probably realized. So yeah, the Joker comes in, the Joker does his damage. The Joker actually kind of gets away scot-free with this because it's more or less how do you put it? He was basically there to kind of defame the Justice League a little bit, and he managed to do that a little bit and then get away. And so that's kind of his thing. You can't really blame a man for trying. And, yeah. The Joker is the Joker, and that's how that works. So, who do we go with next? We've already mentioned him once, but we're going to go with with Brainiac. Because, again, this is him with his robot body that they pretty much used to license the superheroes, the Superpowers team line of toys. They made him look more like the toy because no little kid's going to want a supervillain that doesn't show up in the comics. So Brainiac was the one that got that revamp, making him basically an evil robot instead of the alien. He was basically the same character, but, you know, it's kind of easy to, because, you know, yeah, Brainiac is essentially a living computer from an alien race of living computers. And it was just a little easier to sell him as a living computer if he looked like a living computer instead of a green guy. So they went with that. And in all honesty, when Brainiac actually appeared against the Justice League, he only fought part of them. And it was part of the Crisis on Multiple Earths storyline, where they were integrating the Captain Marvel family into the DC universe, and he was one of the villains involved in that. And when I say Crisis on Multiple Earths, that pretty much should tell you, yes, that means this was a team up of you know, some of the infinite Earths overlapping, Justice League, Justice Society team up, along with the Captain Marvel family, trying to establish them as DC characters. And I'm actually going to talk more about that in a later video, because you know, Raze likes to flex his geek muscles. But one of the side villains in that story was Brainiac. And when that kind of culminated, because that was kind of an annual event of having the Justice League and Justice Society, two teams from different universes coming together. And every time there was a crisis on Earth 1, a crisis on Earth 2, crisis on multiple Earths, that all just kind of, it was like a funnel going down. It just kept growing and growing, and until we got to Crisis on Infinite Earths, which happened not long after that, because the robot Brainiac was the Brainiac in the Crisis on Infinite Earths. And then we move on to Justice League 183, where the big bad is the big bad, Darkseid, probably the biggest single greatest adversary of the heroes of the DC universe. He goes after. He touches all of them. He gets all of them, all the way up into the Legion of the Superheroes way in the future. But yes, this was a situation in which they were trying to incorporate the New Gods into the regular DC universe, even though they'd always been kind of kept separate. You didn't get a lot of crossover between the New Gods, Jack Kirby's New Gods stuff, and moving it into the regular Justice League stuff. And of course, Justice League's the one they're going to have to do. But yes, at this point, Darkseid and the New Gods come to Earth. He's the main villain of the story, and became basically the villain that the Justice League always kind of has to keep their eye on. In later incarnations, it's Darkseid coming to Earth that makes the Justice League form together. But I believe that's post New 52, and it's kind of like, oh yeah. I liked the smaller origins growing. I don't like it when they come out with these great big earth-shattering situations where if you're forced to keep reading, you're just kind of like, well, you know, this isn't as big as what I've already seen. And that's one of the problems with comics, is they've always got to have the bad part, the bad things that happen have to get bigger with the same heroes. It's just like, yeah, well, we've seen these heroes tackle bigger things, so we're not so much worried. But yeah, this is Darkseid, and they don't get much bigger than him. They do get bigger, but that's for a different video. We will talk about that character, who, in my opinion, is the worst of the worst. The biggest villain of all time. And the fact that he never really fought the Justice League is it's kind of a sneaky way around that. But the last person that's part of this little group is Sinestro, which is the one that makes the least amount of sense. Yes, he's the villain of Green Lantern, but he is a Green Lantern villain. I believe that even though Sinestro joined the secret society of the supervillains later on, I don't know that he really fought the Justice League. I mean, obviously later on, you know, closer to the 2000s he did, but he was primarily off-planet. He was primarily fighting Green Lanterns. When he did join the Secret Society of Supervillains, you could kind of tell he had his own agenda, and as soon as that agenda was met, he pretty much just left. He has little to no interest in Earth. And when you're on a team called Justice League of America, he doesn't have time to dice up what country's what. He really is more of an intergalactic villain. Doesn't really come to Earth that often. And when he does, he can't wait to leave it because he's not a big fan. So that's probably the most curious person that they put in here. He never showed up. Especially in 85. In 85, at this point, he really hadn't even appeared in an issue of the Justice League. I do believe that the one time they did Scrap was actually part of the Secret Society, and I believe that was actually in their comic. So, yeah, a little strange, but then again, there's always something going on strange with this. And that wraps it up for the Heroes Metal set, DC Heroes role-playing game metal set of Justice League of America and Adversaries. It's good to finally get this one out of the way, because as always, I've saved the best I have for last. The only one better than the one I still have to do is the one I don't have. And hopefully, if it goes as long as it does to get this video going, maybe I'll have it eventually. But for now, I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. I hope you've enjoyed this, having a look at these little tiny figures. They are a joy to collect. They are like really big prizes. They're not mystery minis. They're not, they don't really fit in. There's something that most people don't have. And that's why I enjoy them. That's why I enjoy showing them off. And they are a great big staple of a nice snapshot of that period of time in comics. So don't forget that there is a playlist for the other videos I have of these metal sets. Give me a like if you've enjoyed this video, and leave a comment below on your opinions on the selection of characters, on who you think should have been in it. You know, if they should have left somebody out, or put more of the Justice League villains in there, it's like Amazo, you know, or Dr. Destiny, or somebody that had fought the Justice League as a whole, and were specifically Justice League villains, as opposed to everybody else, save Darkseid, who, you know, kind of individually had their own backstory with another hero. You know what I mean? It's just kind of like, yeah, they obviously they're not going to do the Royal Flush Gang, but yeah, it just, I would have liked it to have like Amazo or Despero, or obviously not Starro because he was humongous, but yeah, just more of that, because even though some of these characters, I mean, the Darkseid and the Joker were the ones that had the most impact, because, like I said, Brainiac was kind of a side villain in the story that he was in. But I'm going to go ahead and let you go now, and never forget that life is full of odd moments, and you never know when you're going to be defined.